It's about a young boy who has an extreme fear of deep water, and his dad is a famous diver, and his dad has asked him to travel with him across the Great Lakes during this summer of school vacation. And he doesn't want to tell his dad that he's afraid of water. And so as it starts out, they get to the first maritime museum where his dad is speaking, lecturing, and he said, why don't you wander around? So he goes around the maritime museum and is looking at things, and a little girl comes up to him named Bree, and they start talking, and she seems to know an awful lot about shipwrecks, pretty mysteriously, more than the average kid. We're standing in front of a boat called the Mayflower. Bree begins to explain. The Mayflower was just 4 miles from Duluth's harbor and still lies there today in 90 feet of water. I'm impressed. Bree seems to know as much as my dad. How do you know so much about this Mayflower? Oh, I know a lot about all this shipwrecks, Bree says shyly. It's kind of my thing. Will you teach me, I ask? Sure, that would be fun. Bree looks around to see if anyone is watching. She leans in and whispers, I know a secret about this place if you're up for an adventure. I'm always up for an adventure, I say boldly, but I think to myself, as long as it isn't in deep water. Bree takes me to a dark map called Lake Superior, graveyard of the Great Lakes. I study the map to figure out its secret. Looks like a piece of paper with a lot of little shipwrecks on it to me. I don't get it, I blurt out. What's the secret? Bree giggles. It's not what the map is, she teases. It's what it can do. Bree touches the little ship on the map labeled Mayflower and whispers, shipwreck. Suddenly a door creaks open in the wall behind the map. I didn't remember seeing a door. Follow me, Bree says, and we slip into the entrance. Without even a whoosh, just like in my nightmare, I'm drifting down, down beneath dark waters. So it's a mystery. You're always kind of wondering who this Bree is. But it's, of course, being a retired teacher, it's based in facts and teaching kids about the different sailing vessels and Lake Superior and shipwrecks and all such. You know, when our daughters were 5 and 6, we camped around Lake Superior. We did the circle tour, and they became fascinated by the different legends and ghost stories and lure of the lake. And so I wanted to feed that interest, and so we stopped at all the bookstores and the gift shops and the Maritime Museum gift shops, and we couldn't find anything. And finally, our very last stop was in Bayfield, and I went to a used bookstore and I asked the owner. I said, "Do you have such a thing?" And he said, "No, but if I had $1 for everybody who's asked, every parent, grandparent," he said, "I'd be a millionaire." And so we got talking about that, and I told him I was a teacher and a reading specialist, and he said, "You should write it." And at that time I thought, I will. I'll do it just for my own kids because, I want them to keep this interest going. And so I started doing the research, and back then there was no internet, so I had to go to the libraries and buy these books, and I got the research done, and then life got busy raising kids, and I put it aside. And I found it after I retired in the basement and thought, I'm going to finish this. So I did.
Totally elapsed time then between idea and publishing?
Well, if my kids are turning 34 and 35 now, it would be 30 years. It took a while. I didn't want to start something and not finish it. I thought, and now it's not obviously for my own kids, it'd be for my grandkids. I have 5. And I thought, I'll finish it for them. I just didn't want to have done all that work and have all that support from my husband who let me do all of this work while we were raising kids and all. I thought I need to complete this. I'm not one of those that likes to leave things undone. The hardest part was choosing the shipwrecks because I wanted to be sure that they were shipwrecks that kids would be interested in. But I also wanted them to represent all the way around Lake Superior. There are a lot in certain areas. That Shipwreck Coast along the upper peninsula of Michigan has many, and any of the peninsulas that stick out or the islands that stick out have many, but I wanted to represent the whole lake. So that was trickier. And I wanted to try to get each type of sailing vessel in too, because that's what I wanted to teach kids, was the different vessels and what they carried and where they were heading and all of that. So it was tricky to do that and try to weave in the boats that had really good ghost stories and things that are compelling to kids. The Edmund Fitzgerald everybody brings up first because it's in our recent past, and I was in high school at the time, and I just remember how tragic it was and how bad I felt, and that one stuck with me because I lived it, and I felt so bad for the families and the people who lost their lives. And then Gordon Lightfoot puts out the song, which makes it to the top, and it's an eerie, compelling song. So, you know, that one, I see why people pick that. I love the Kamloops. It's got a wonderful ghost story about a body that they have nicknamed. Some nickname him Grandpa and some nickname him Whitey. But because Lake Superior is so cold and deep, that bodies do preserve. And so divers have actually come upon this Grandpa. And the stories go that he still thinks he's manning the boat, and he follows them around, and the stories are very fun. I'm not going to tell you all of them, but they're fun ghost stories, so that's a fun one for kids. A real life story is the Madeira that hit the coast off of Split Rock Lighthouse. The ship was going down, and a man named Fred Benson jumped out during this horrific storm, and against all odds got to the shore with a rope, shimmied up this huge cliff, was able to get a rope back to his crewmates, and basically saved the whole crew. I mean, that's just amazing. So that one I just thought was such a story of heroism. You don't just give up. This man risked his life. And unless you've been through a Lake Superior storm, I'm sure nobody understands how horrific those storms are. But that I just thought was an amazing story.
What's it like, people walking up to you at book signings?
Well, it's weird because to me, I just completed something. You know, I've written a thesis before. I've completed things like similar before. I don't feel like any big author or anything. It's my first book. So it's a little bit weird in that way when some people make you feel like some kind of a celebrity, which I don't feel at all. Or they'll say, oh my goodness, you're an author? Or, honey, come here, you've got to meet an author. Or, you're going to sign this book? It's like, oh my goodness, it's just me.